Now, there's a renewed call for the declaration of a state of emergency to effectively address the Boko Haram insurgency. Now, the move, which follows recent media reports, say the absence of political will has hindered Nigeria's response to insurgency, stressing that an emergency proclamation backed by the National Assembly would mobilize all elements of national power towards ending the war.
And to share insights on increasing calls for an emergency declaration on insurgency, we are now joined by Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, retired. He's a security consultant and former spokesperson for the Nigerian Air Force. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being with you.
Yes. So, General Irabor, retired, who commanded the fight against Boko Haram, now says a state of emergency can re-energize the war. In your view, let me ask you, would you also recommend declaring a state of emergency on Boko Haram and insurgency in general? If you do, what exactly does that declaration look like and what will it achieve?
Thank you very much. In this discussion, I hear two terms being used interchangeably. Declaration of state of emergency and declaration of war.
Right.
These are two different things. Now, when we talk of declaration of state of emergency, with regards to the Boko Haram, specifically in the northeast, not the banditry in the northwest and the rest, if we go back to 2009, former President Goodluck Jonathan did declare a state of emergency on the Boko Haram in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states. It was declared at a first instance, and then it was renewed,
right,
as agreed by the Constitution. So what does that state of emergency do? What state of emergency does is to give the president an extra power to do things which originally he would have to seek legal clearance. He has to contact National Assembly. All those things will be lifted and will be able to attack. That is state of emergency, which
right,
normally it has nothing to do with war. Maybe just a normal breakdown of law and order in place. And the consequences is that the governor who is in place there, even if he's not legally removed, it means all his powers will be transferred now to the center. It will be the government at the center that will be controlling all the powers that he would have exercised. Alternatively, there are cases where you can even appoint somebody as an administrator, whether military or civil, to take over. That is state of emergency. Now, when you talk of a declaration of war, again, which again some people talk about. Now, a declaration of war, it's a procedure that was given birth as a use of when we used to have wars between countries. It's like a statement of intent from one country to another, that from this day, based on the actions you are doing, we are at war. And it is demanded by the Geneva Conventions. You have to give that warning that we're at war. So again, where I'm trying to remove the confusion, if in general, you'll find that over the years, if you look at, you can hardly find wars between countries to countries. What most people have now is wars that are internal, homegrown insurgency. Now, in such cases, generally, not only in Nigeria, countries do not want to do a declaration of war in such instances.
Why is that? Why the reluctance to declare a state of war? I mean, considering the fact that when it comes to insurgency, it's a clear and present danger. Why not declare war?
It is a very good question. Now, when you declare, the understanding of many countries, Nigeria, in fact, in the current distance, you can see Nigeria, you can see Colombia, you can see Ethiopia, you can see Bangladesh. I'm not Bangladesh. There is this country in the Asia that they all have these insurgencies. Countries agree, based on international law, that when you declare a war against an insurgent group that is homegrown, that is when it's fighting its own citizens, you are legitimizing those people and taking them like a state. And most countries don't want to recognize those splinter groups as a state. It's like you are giving them a status of a state. So not only Nigeria, you find that most countries don't want to do it. People easily forget. We fought a civil war.
Right.
Throughout the months of the civil war, the Nigerian government never declared war.
Really?
They never did.
That's interesting.
So what they call it police action, or they call it rebellion. That's what most countries do. So by declaring war against a group that is inborn, you are giving it legitimacy. In another way, you are also giving it recognition in that other countries can say, I support this group or I support federal government. Again, another drawback of it is that as soon as you declare war, Geneva Conventions kick in. Issues like ICC oversight, issues like war crime. The definition of war crime only happens when there is war. So countries find it that it is more flexible to say I'm doing internal security operation, or I'm doing law enforcement operation, or I'm doing, call it any other term. So many examples I can give. I have called Ethiopia, they didn't do that. I've called Colombia, they fought the same insurgency for 50 years. Yeah. They never declared a war officially.
In the case of Nigeria,
yes.
this one, what would you say is the best, move that Nigeria can make in a way that it does not jeopardize its own position as a sovereign nation and doesn't give legitimacy to, this Boko Haram and other, non-state actors that take up arms against the state? With
respect, Nigerians were quick to forget. Like I reminded you that in civil law we never declared war. And when you talk about this issue of declared state of emergency, declared war, how many times has this discussion come before National Assembly? Countless number of times. Countless number of times. And when we look at our past history, like during the civil war, the government didn't declare war, but you could see the war effort throughout all the country, that there's a war effort. So while declaration of war is just a political kind of thing, that does not stop, even with that does not stop the government to put the country on a war mood by mobilizing resources, by mobilizing recruitment, by looking for even foreign support, if that's necessary. That's what we did during the civil war. Our army grew up from 1/3, it multiplied by about 4 times within a very short time. Right. We sought support from countries like Russia that time, USSR that time, and Egypt. They helped us. So what I am not seeing here, so the point I'm making is not the formal verbal declaration without war, it's what you do, and we're not doing much. Since we started this war for 15 years, how big has our armed forces grown? It's very little.
Great, and that brings me back to my first question, because I asked you if you would support a declaration of a state of emergency, and then you made this clarification, thank you so much, for emergency and then war. But if we do go beyond verbal declaration, and I asked you, what would a state of emergency look like? Because the calls are increasing, including from the retired Chief of Defense Staff, who led, theaters on the war front. He's saying so many things, including a state of emergency. But let me just add to that, because he's also highlighted weak political responses and reckless statements from politicians that embolden the insurgents. Are those also factors you are seeing from your point of view as why Boko Haram remains very prominent?
Why I see Boko Haram remaining prominent is that successive governments, including the current one, they have not taken the fight seriously. But it has nothing to do with a formal declaration of war, which I told you, it has its own drawbacks.
Yeah. Right.
In fact, our armed forces that are fighting, they are better off without a declaration of war than with a declaration of war. You get the point?
Yes.
Because when you declare a point of war, you are putting some inconveniences for which they have to operate.
Right.
Not declaring a war is more flexible for the war fighter. It's more flexible politically for the government. It's even more flexible economically. If you declare war, for example, it sends even bad signal in the countries.
So don't declare war, don't declare state of emergency.
Yes, but act. That is it.
So what will this action be, and why is it so difficult for them to act?
Yes, the act is that, with due respect, I'm talking frankly when I'm talking about, because we don't have any other country. I think there is no honest discussion between the security agencies and the political masters. You get the point? When you are confronted with a security situation like we have now, the first thing you ask is, do we have the capacity to confront this thing? It's an honest judgment. I don't want to hear about we did it in Liberia, we did it in Sierra Leone. Right. With due respect, my friends in Igbo, they say, I get them before no be property. It is right. And it is an honest, don't deceive yourself that we did Ethiopia, we did Liberia, this is past. It's now we're talking. And it's an honest, critical assessment. Do we have the capacity to confront this thing? If the answer is yes, fine. Then you reach the capacity. If the answer is no, where can we get that capacity? Right. Is it from our resources? Is it looking for allies? Is it more recruitment? Is it more? But we are not doing that. To be honest with you, that's why we're having a ding-dong affair. Our forces are trying, but today they gain, tomorrow they lose, tomorrow they gain. Yeah. In the long run, I always liken it, it's like a woman who wants to cook a pot of porridge, but she decides now she has firewood. Does she put 5 firewood or put 1? If she put 1, well, it will take her like, she might cook the food eventually, but that will take like, many hours.
So she has to decide the intensity of the fire. On the
fire, and that is what we are not doing. Like I said, how has our armed forces grown since we started this for 15 years? Not much. Why? And again, as like I said, we should learn from our history. I told you during the Civil War, within 1 year, our armed forces quadrupled. They opened several
and even technology improved. I mean, we had Obunigwe, opportunities lost.
But what do we hear now? Sorry, what do we hear now? When you hear about mass recruitment, they will say there's no barrack, no money. That means we are not taking the war seriously. And not only that, during the Civil War, I'm from the northern part. I didn't take part. I was maybe 2-3 years old. But I do remember, even musicians, when we say even musicians like Shatta, they were singing words like Soja Iyalin Gwamna, which means soldiers are government's property, only women stay at home. This is what we mean by whole of society approach, and we're not doing it.
Should the country declare war on homegrown insurgency, what happens to governments at the subnational? What happens to the state governments?
That is another...
Are there advantages or disadvantages?
That is another setback. Again, a politician is a politician. With due respect, I'm talking frankly, politics is not my domain, but security is my domain. That is another thing. Thank you for raising that. There are also political consequences. When you declare a state of emergency, it means the governments in those states, you have to suspend them. With due respect, not every politician can take that risk because of political
background. Former President Goodluck Jonathan did not suspend the governors of those 3 states
when he declared a state of emergency.
Not suspend them, but I'm saying their powers.
And we were able, because you talk about history, we were able to conduct elections in those 3 states because of the state of emergency that allowed the Nigerian forces to clear the insurgents so that polling units could hold elections at that time.
You see, this is what I'm telling you. A politician is a politician. A politician look at his political, what fortunes. Is his political fortune? You look at it. Jonathan did it. Yes. Will any other president do it? And what did it cost him? Again, I don't want to go into that. But I'm just giving you the consequences. When you say declare or declare, there are consequences. Like I told you, legal, political, even outside this thing. You might hear they will say no aircraft will fly across those states. That, all those things, they're there. So they are there. So in the long run, I want people to understand that there are advantages and disadvantages of declaring a state of war.
Which would be
but without even the formal declaration, like we did in the civil war, you don't have. It's not about talking. It's about what you do.
Just act, and that is what we will go home with tonight.
Exactly.
Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, retired, former spokesperson, Nigerian Air Force. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight and your great insights on this.